Okay, Tanya Perek Aleph Part 2. We just left off yesterday trying to figure out, who am I? Am I supposed to, people nowadays are trying to figure out how they look at themselves, how they see themselves as part of society. How do I see myself as I'm going around? Do I look at myself that I'm perfect? I'm a tzaddik? Do I walk around and be like I'm a Rasha? I'm terrible? They both sound like pretty bad ideas. Someone walks around and says to everyone, you're perfect? You're not. Someone goes around to everyone, I'm terrible, I'm evil? You're not. Actually, it says in the Gemara, you can't walk around saying I'm a tzaddik. We just learned yesterday, because everyone has to see themselves as a Rasha. And you can't go around calling yourself a Rasha. You can't be wicked, call yourself wicked. Because we learned yesterday, don't see yourself as a Rasha. So now you're kind of stuck. And to figure out who's who and what's what, how you look at yourself, first we've got to define what's a tzaddik, what's a Rasha. And we figured out that there's 5 types of people. There's someone who's a perfect tzaddik, who we end up finding out is someone who, the tzaddik, who has nothing bad inside of him. We found out that there's an imperfect tzaddik, who has some bad in him, but the bad always loses to the good. We found out that there's a Rasha, who's got some good in him, but sometimes it loses to the bad. It loses to the good in him. He has some good in him, and sometimes it loses to the bad. And then there's the perfect Rasha, well, quite the opposite of perfect. There's a guy that the good in him doesn't affect his life at all. And then there's the beinoni, the guy in between. Purely halachically, who's the guy in between? Is someone who does half good, half bad. Well, if we're looking at the inside of a person, it's going to be the guy, I guess, who 50% of the time the good side wins, and 50% of the time the bad side wins. But today we're going to dig deeper and try to figure out who this guy, who's the middleman, the in-between. What's up with him? Who is he? Maybe that's who we are. We can't call ourselves tzaddik and we can't call ourselves Rasha. Maybe we're the middle guy. And that's pretty safe ground. If someone's like, hey, you perfect or are you evil? No, I'm like somewhere in between. That sounds like safe ground. We're going to find out today. By the way, about whether you call yourself a tzaddik or a Rasha, there's the Rabbi Lever. Now, Rabbi Lever, who lives about 150 years ago, and if I'd have to guess if someone was a tzaddik, I'd put him down as a tzaddik. The stories of like the incredible level of devotion to learning Torah and doing mitzvahs is unparalleled. But Rabbi Lever, when he was young, he was not only incredibly righteous, he was a genius. He, at 13 years old, he was Baki B'Shas. He knew the entire Gemara. By 15, he was exceptionally well versed in all the Kisvei Arizal, the Kabbalah. So he started off as a Talmud and as a Chassid of Rav Mordechai Chernobyler. And as a Chassid of Rav Mordechai Chernobyler, he would learn Chassidus from Mordechai, and he would sit and he would learn all day and night. And he had a chavrusa, and every day of the week they would learn Nigla together. They sit and learn Gemara all day. And on Shabbos, when Shabbos would come in, they'd wrap themselves in a talis, they'd lock the doors, and they'd spend the whole Shabbos learning Kabbalah. So he said he said about his time when he was younger, he said, we thought we were tzaddikim gemurim, we thought we were perfect tzaddikim, until one day we came across the Sefer Tanya. When we came across the Sefer Tanya, then we started learning, and we realized that we're not perfect tzaddikim. We realized we're not as holy as we thought. And we put away the talesim, and we unlocked the doors. And from then on we decided, if only I could be a beinoni. A tzaddik, for sure not. A beinoni, that's something I'll try. I wish I was a beinoni. So from there was a phrase came out, tzaddik, sure not. But halavai beinoni, if only I could be a beinoni. So tzaddik, the Tanya is very real. It's very, very real. We're not going around and sugarcoating everything and saying, yeah, everyone's perfect. No, not everyone's perfect. We're not going to be pessimists, and we're not going to say everyone's evil. Chas v'shalom. We're going to try to figure out where everyone is. And the most likely case at this stage is that everyone's going to be a beinoni, an in-between guy, but we haven't really defined what the in-between guy is. If it's sometimes a good one, sometimes a bad, that's a pretty simple definition. But that's an impossible definition. You know why? Because we're about to learn inside. You guys see the line that starts with... The line starts with Amar Rabba. So coming right off saying the Yetzer Tov is in charge by a tzaddik, and the Yetzer Hara is in charge by a Rasha. And the beinoni is half and half. You know the half and half soda? You get Arizona half and half? So that's the beinoni. Then here's someone trying to be really helpful and throws in a curveball. Rabbi says, Rabbi was one of the greatest of the Amoraim. And you know what he says? Oh, you want to know what an example of a beinoni is? For example, I'm a beinoni. So Abaye says back to him, sir, you're not letting anyone else live. No one else can live like that. If you're the middle guy, if you're average, then what are we? If you're the greatest of the generation, and you're average, then we're all like real losers. By the way, interesting pshat I saw was it says that the Rishoyim are considered, someone who's truly wicked is considered like a dead person. So Abaye is telling him, if you're a tzaddik, then we're all Rishoyim. And Rishoyim are considered like dead people. So you're not letting anyone else live. Anyways, very nice job. So, now what? If Rabbi's a beinoni, forget it. But Abaye says, no, that can't be true. You're throwing us all under the bus here. So, to understand this very well, and also to understand, you ready, problem number 2 with the beinoni? Because we were trying to figure out who we are. Are we perfect? Are we evil? Are we somewhere in between? So let's talk a bit about becoming perfect or evil. We have to understand, we have free choice. Free choice is one of the most important parts of Yiddishkeit. Without free choice, there's no purpose to the Torah mitzvahs, because if you don't have choice what to do, how can Hashem command you to one thing or the other? And the Rambam speaks about if there's no free choice, then there's can't be any reward or punishment, because you're just doing everything. So everyone obviously has a choice whether to do the right thing or the wrong thing. But here's the problem, because if you read about Eov, what does it say in the Gemara? That Eov, who was suffering very much, everyone here has read Sefer Eov, yeah, for sure. So, Eov was a very righteous man. He ended up suffering a lot. And he was complaining to Hashem. And he told Hashem, you created some people as righteous, and you created some people as wicked. You made some people tzaddikim and some people rishoyim. And if some people are born as tzaddikim, some people are born as rishoyim, you can't really blame them for what they do wrong, because they were born like that. So the Alter Rebbe was like, 1 second. I saw in the Gemara, it says in the Baba Basra quite the opposite. You know what it says over there? It actually says, what does it say in the Gemara? There's a different Gemara that says that before a person's born, there's a baskol, a heavenly voice comes out, and says this person, they'll either be rich or they'll be poor, they'll either be tall or short, they'll be smart or not so smart. The one thing they don't announce is whether you'll be a tzaddik or a rasha, will be righteous or wicked. You know why? Because that's left up to you. Because your situation, Hashem puts you in your situation. But your choices, that's up to you. Beautiful, free choice. So 1 second. Eov thinks there's no free choice. Some people are made as Rishoyim or Tzaddikim. But then the Gemara says, no, quite the opposite. It's, you choose. So which one is it? So now another question. We got to figure out who this beinoni guy is that we have all this confusion about. So the Alter Rebbe is going to throw out, we're going to spend the rest of the day throwing out a bunch of ideas, theories of what a beinoni is, and then knocking them down. We're going to go in order. So half good, half bad. He's for sure not, because Rabbi thought he was a beinoni. So what other middle ground is there between good and bad? So here's one option. You ready? Because it's for sure not half good, half bad, because Rabbi was such a great tzaddik that he learned Torah all day. And the level of his learning Torah was of such great worth that if the Malach HaMovis, the angel of death, couldn't kill him, because he had such a deep learning of Torah. And every time he was learning Torah, the Malach HaMovis couldn't touch him because he was on such a holy level. And you know when he was learning Torah? Always. So he literally couldn't die until there's a story in the Gemara that Malach HaMovis had to make a whole shtick to get him to stop learning for a second. So he's such a great tzaddik. So where is this middle ground that we can find a beinoni? So you ready for some options? Because otherwise it's impossible to figure out how Rabbi could think that he's chas v'shalom like half averis. So, number one, maybe a beinoni is someone who is only does averis sometimes. Like he did averis, but he hasn't done tshuva yet. So you can't do that, because as soon as you do one avera, you're called a rasha. As soon as you do tshuva, you're a tzaddik gomer. So it can't be someone who did averis and just hasn't fixed them up yet. There's no middle ground between that. You're either rasha or tzaddik. Okay, how about this option? Let's say someone went against they keep everything from the Torah, but they go against the mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Is that a good middle ground? Someone's perfect according to the Torah, keeps all 613 mitzvahs, but they go against their d'Rabbanan. So nope, the Alter Rebbe pulled out a Gemara. Actually, you find in Yevomis, it says quite the opposite. You're a rasha as soon as you mess up d'Rabbanan. Okay, how about this? How about this one? How about you do everything perfect, But when your friend does an Aveira, you're just like, yeah, I don't mind if he does Aveiras. So maybe that's middle ground. You're perfect, but you let others do Aveiras. So the Alter Rebbe says, actually, I was reading in the Gemara Shavuos that if you don't do everything you can to get your friend to do the right thing, now you're also a Rasha. Okay, so where's our middle ground? Oh, here's a good middle ground. How about you don't do anything wrong, but you don't do things right? Oh, that's a smart one. That you don't do any Averis, you're not a Rasha, but you don't do mitzvahs, so you're not a tzaddik. So Alter Rebbe is like, no. If you miss out doing the mitzvahs you're supposed to do, then that's even worse. That's even worse than someone who just passively lets others do Averis. For sure, yourself missing out on mitzvahs. And like you see, for example, in someone who has an opportunity to learn Torah and he doesn't get involved in it, you know what it says in the Gemara about that? They say, the pasuk, they apply to this guy, someone who's ditching time from learning Torah. Yeah, you could have been learning Torah, and you went to the baseball game instead. You know what it says in Gemara about that? You've scorned the word of Hashem. You should be surely cut off. So what do we see from that? There's really no middle ground. Either, as soon as you mess up, you're on Team Russia. If you're perfect, you're on Team Tzaddik. So how do we split the hair and find the beinoni, what he is? Because that's like someone I want to be. I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm not evil. I'd probably want to be somewhere in the middle, but there is no middle. We're stuck. So for sure, obviously, a Rasha you're going to be called a Rasha even more if you skip davening one day than someone who goes against a Issur D'Rabbanan. Because doing all these mitzvahs d'oraisa, putting on tefillin, learning Torah, davening, these are all mitzvahs straight from the Torah. So it's even more strict than an Aveira from the Rabbanan. So therefore, obviously the beinoni doesn't even have a problem of missing learning Torah. So at least we figured out one thing. We can at least understand where Rabbi was coming from. Because Rabbi was analyzing the beinoni, and he's like, hey, the beinoni always learns Torah. I always learn Torah. Beinoni always makes sure to do every mitzvah possible. Rabbi does every mitzvah possible. Beinoni never does any Averis. I never do any Averis. Okay, I'm probably a beinoni. So at least we understand where he's coming from now. However, for us, for our real definition, we're kind of stuck. We don't know who the beinoni is. By the way, about this, talking about, here's where I finish off with the story, talking about that, for example, that this bittul Torah, that we just said someone who misses learning Torah, that it's as if he's spurring the word of Hashem. He doesn't care about the word of Hashem. He could have cared about the words of Hashem in the Torah, and instead he decided to go and play ping pong. So, about this, there was a chassid, his name was Yitzchak Pevsner, who lived in France. And this chassid, he was in elementary school. He was in 6th grade in the small cheder in Brunois, France. So he turned 12, and the kids in the class knew they wanted to start learning Tanya. They knew before you learn 12, you're not allowed into the Tanya class. So they went over to the 3 oldest kids in the class. They went over to the mashpir of Nissen Nemenov, who was a mashpir in yeshiva. It was like a small yeshiva back then, very, very small. When my grandfather was there, they were struggling for a minyan. But so it was, everyone knew everyone. So they went over to Rabbi Nissen Nemenov and they said, can you teach us Tanya? So Rabbi Nissen says, yeah, but keep it top secret. I don't want the classmates getting jealous. So they come for their first class. They go into a side room. And there's 3 kids there, Rabbi Nissen. Rabbi Nissen sits across from them. And he's teaching them the Tanya from the first page. As soon as he flips a page and he gets up to where it starts saying that someone who ditches learning Torah should be cut off, and they scorned the word of Hashem, Nissen started crying and crying, bitter tears. It meant so much to him. It meant so much. He knows that just the idea that you could miss learning Torah, it's affected him so deeply. And the kids seeing this, they started crying also. From then on, the rest of their life, they had a different approach to learning Torah. After that class, they saw a person who really, really cared about learning Torah. Let me give you another example of this. After the Rebbe had a heart attack in Tavshin Lamed Ches in 1978, so the doctor said the Rebbe has to take it easy. You can't keep running this worldwide organization, being a Rebbe, teaching non-stop. You have to take it easy. So the Rebbe is just going full throttle, full steam ahead. So the Rebbe sat down with Leibel Groner, the secretary, to negotiate. So Leibel Groner starts to try and negotiate what the Rebbe can take off to rest more. So the Rebbe says, first of all, I refuse to take off a second for my 8 hours a day that I learn Nigla. Not taking off 1 second from the 8 hours a day, that's non-negotiable. To the Rebbe, his learning Torah time, absolutely non-negotiable. You can't even ask a question about it. He liked to say with the Rebbe, when the Rebbe was in university in Berlin, so you ever seen the interviews of the people who were in university with him? They say, yeah, a young man, the black beard, would walk into the back of class. He always had a little sefer with him that he spent reading from the whole class. Imagine a Rebbe in university. What do you think he's doing? He was learning. He was sitting and learning. So from this Tanya we can see the importance of every moment of learning Torah. Fine. To find out what the beinoni is, I guess we'll have to stay tuned and find out tomorrow.